Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of OG Creatives Podcast. This is episode 8. I'm your co-host Mickey, and let me introduce my friend Will. Say hi, Will.
Hi, Mickey. Hello.
Hi everyone. This episode we've got another special guest from the other side of the world, from the Southern Hemisphere, from New Zealand. This is Zero Alpha. Say hi.
Kia ora, how we doing?
Yeah, good man, good to speak to you. It's morning for you, evening for us. So I'll say good morning.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So what was that, Kia ora?
Yeah, it's just Māori. Yeah, it's Māori for hello. It's
Okay.
pretty much things are getting pretty bilingual here in New Zealand. So, or Aotearoa, we're even like thinking about changing our name. Bit of a controversy about it at the moment.
Oh really? We're changing the.
Well, it's a long-standing thing, you know. New Zealand, I think we're kind of wanting to not do away with our like Commonwealth past, but just as a nation, I think we're starting to find our feet.
Right.
Want to become a little bit more independent, just sort of pay homage to the Maori people, and we're sort of becoming a truly bilingual and biracial country. I suppose that's what you call it. I don't know.
I think everyone's we're going through this phase.
Definitely, I think it sort of goes along with the whole, sort of what we're seeing with the crypto space as well. It's doing away with old ways and ushering in the new ways.
Absolutely. Speaking of the crypto space, so we're all involved in NFTs and doing artwork and being digital artists and this kind of thing. Could you tell us a little bit about your kind of background and where you're coming from and what you're into these days?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Zero Alpha. I'm a crypto artist now, but my background comes from being a graphic designer. I run my own company, Zero Alpha Design. I kind of started that maybe like 5 years ago. It was just a means of, my creativity. And I really like graphic design. I'm an absolute sort of typography geek, and I love sort of all the old minimal graphic design sort of styles. But it was kind of a way for me to, my daughter's mum decided to move to a place where there was hardly any work. And I was like, shit, I've got to be close to my daughter. So I kind of had to grind really hard to make an income where I could do it remotely. So that was kind of one of the main reasons why I got into it. And I work predominantly in touch designer and also cinema 4D. So as the NFT thing started coming online, I was listening to podcasts and listening to the likes of people sort of end of last year, and I heard them talking about it. And I was like, shit, I want to get in on this. And for some reason, the only platforms I could find were the like Super Rare and Foundation, where you had to have an invite. And I was like, I'm never going to get an invite. And it wasn't until the start of this year, around about March, when it really started popping off. I was like, fuck, what's going on? And then that's when I found OpenSea and kind of thought, oh yeah, I can get in on this. So yeah, I started minting on OpenSea. And then just as things progressed and you get deeper into it, found out about Nunc or Hen. And yeah, I kind of migrated over there, and that sort of suited me a lot better. I come from a real heavy drum and bass culture, jungle culture, and just underground. And, so when I found Hen, I was like, this is my place. So that's where I'm predominantly minting on now. I have got a collection back on OpenSea, the Lost Souls. But yeah, Hen is my home, or Tez probably more than anything else. The Tez blockchain.
So was there a point where you basically, because obviously we're all saw the same thing, like NFTs just absolutely exploding, but like, did you make a decision, like, are you doing the NFTs full time, or are you still doing graphic design stuff as well?
No, I'm doing NFTs full time.
So was there a point where you decided, like, switch one to the other, no more client work?
Yeah, well, I probably made the switch just over a month ago. And like we were just talking earlier on before, my graphic design stuff was cool and I love it, but the work that I was doing was getting really monotonous, and creatively probably more than anything else. And at the same time, I was doing graphic design and I was doing NFTs, and obviously, I had a really good couple of months, and things started really, really going well, and I was like, that's a bit of a no-brainer, like the financial side of it, but more importantly, the creative side of it. I was being able to make an income off my own creativity, which, was just really satisfying for me.
I think it's almost like a bit of a perfect storm where it seems like kind of that work was getting valued less and less, like as, people were outsourcing to other countries, and the production side of things was getting like less and less valuable. People seemed to care less and less about the quality of the work, and just like they just wanted it faster, cheaper. And it's like right at that time is like when NFTs started blowing up. Like so many people, I know I've said on the podcast before that it's been hard to like find people to do the work because people are just frustrated with that. Like not having any creative or less creative input, working faster, cheaper, harder, longer. And like here comes this like golden ticket where even if I fucking don't make half what I made before, almost like I'd rather be doing that just because I'm doing it for myself.
Yeah.
Like big.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I even had a hard time. Like I didn't want to leave my clients in the lurch. I gave them plenty of notice, and I said, look, I'll try and help find some replacements, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
Like people I was hitting up, and I was probably looking in the wrong place because I was hitting up people that were in the crypto scene, or crypto art scene.
Yeah.
But all of them were like, no, I'm not doing any client work.
But I mean, like that's why I've been following Mickey obviously introduced me to you and your stuff, and but that's why it's been interesting to follow you, is because you're not some massive celebrity who's coming from somewhere. Like it sounds like you've just started from the ground up in NFTs, and you're doing it like as a profession full time, which is great. Like it's great because everyone else you see, or a lot of other people you see, have either got really lucky with something, or they already had a massive fan base. Like they were basically celebrities anyway, and then they're just like, oh, here's a few NFTs as well. But it's just great. I mean, that's why I've been following you. I bought one of your things on Hen just because it's just nice to support each other, and I think this community that's the community part that I'm interested in, that I want to see. It's just general people doing it.
Yeah, and I think that's why I do like the Tears and like the Hickok Nook community. The Hickok Nook community is dope. Like it is everybody supporting everybody else, and I suppose like I have started from the bottom, and I'm not making a shit ton of cash or anything like that, but I'm making enough, and it's sustainable. I'm paying my rent, pay my bills. Had a good month the other week or the other month, and now I've got this little bit of a financial buffer where I can go, okay, don't have to do design work, and I can concentrate. It's given me some time. Time's really important. But it's cool.
Because that's, saying what you just said there, just to make a point of working for clients and that kind of thing, because time is ultimately the one thing that you're selling, is the commodity that you're infinitely running out of, and that we sell to other clients for their own gains, for their own product, that we get very little back in return from. And NFTs have enabled us to buy back some of that time in order to spend it, that truly valuable thing, because that's a resource. Money, you can make more money, but time, you can't ever make it again, right? So that's something that's more valuable than it. And then you double that up with something like in the early days, talking about early days at the start of the year and things like that, when even Ethereum's value was like very low and a lot of things were minted on Ethereum, you'd get paid something, one day, and then like if you didn't cash it out, 3 weeks later it was like triple that. It's like so actually the worth, what you were getting back in return was way more than you could get off some kind of like steady job and some kind of client stuff. So I think initially the lure was there. I think it was like straight away, like it can do it.
What I did is I went in and I got out of the pricing model of Ethereum where you're trying to price it for like, I don't know, half an ETH, 1 ETH, and made it affordable for a lot of people. And in turn, what that did was it started to just bring in a steady income. You know, I was making like $200-300 a week, which was cool. And, you know, that pays my rent. And eventually, and then it was kind of like a perfect storm as well. Like, the hen just started to rise, and it's still going on now. I kind of forget people are new to Hickok Nook and Tez, and I listen to them in spaces, and they've got no idea what we've been doing. And they get excited about there is all this awesome art that is affordable. And for me, I think it makes more sense. The more people that can collect your work, it's cool because more people get to see your work, and you get a sustainable income.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we sort of discovered, or Mickey definitely was selling NFTs in the first place, and we kept like pricing them lower because it's like there was clearly like a whole other market of people who were excited about NFTs, like myself, like Mickey, who had, you know, maybe 100 quid, 50 quid, you know, to spend on an NFT. Certainly not, no matter how much you like artwork, you're not going to drop $1,000 on it, like, because you don't have it. And so there was this whole host of people who want to support each other and want to support this whole community. And we were trying to price things at like 0.1 on foundation, and then by the time you paid all the mint fees and everything, you end up with like 20 quid at the end of it. And it's just, I mean, I think Hen, I do love it, and I really want to get on it, and it's only because of the podcast and stuff that I haven't been able to hit it harder. I know I was talking to you a little bit about some generative stuff, but it definitely seems like the way to go now.
I think so. And I there's nothing wrong with, you know, like I said, I'm on OpenSea as well, and I think you'd be silly just to be on one platform.
So do you want to talk a bit about your art and, you know, what you make, why you make it, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, man. So I have got 2 projects, and like I said, I work in Touch Designer and Cinema 4D. I'll start off with my Hickok Nook stuff, which is predominantly Touch Designer. So Touch Designer is a real-time rendering engine. It's node-based. It's, for me, I fucking love it. You can input any data into it. So it really lends itself well to being interactive. You know, I use things like Connect cameras, do audio reactive stuff like that. So the project I'm doing, well, I've just finished it. Last month I started just doing GIFs. It was something that I wanted to learn. I've got to give a shout out to AL Crego. He's an absolute OG and fucking legend. He helped me out, got on DMs, you know, and this is the power of the community. You know, I just asked him a few tips, and I was pretty grateful for that because, you know, I knew how to make them, but you know, it's always good to learn from one of the masters. So what is it? Why am I doing it? My work is pretty personal. Like it's me sitting in my studio. I've always got tunes on, and like I said, that drum and bass background, real dark, minimal, plays a big part. You know, like I'm vibing off what's going on in my studio, and I'm a big sci-fi fan as well. So, you know, it's me just going into my own little world and creating visuals and a feel and a vibe. And I'm pretty stoked because I think it's people mention it, so they must be getting what I'm going on about.
Yeah, I think what I love about what I loved about the one that I collected of yours is like you see things in it. So you basically, I mean, you do generative art. It's geometric patterns and shapes on moody backgrounds, right? And but each one, I guess. So I was thinking about this the other day, like thinking about your art and like the fact that with generative stuff, I guess, like you're saying, you get in a mood, you're generating this art, and kind of you settle on the ones that essentially capture either the mood you're in or capture a mood, and you see something in it. And that's because obviously with generative, you can keep generating all night long. You could make like thousands, but I guess you're landing on the ones that say something to you. Is that right?
Yeah, and it is like, and with real time rendering, you go, oh my god, I've done it so many times because it just keeps going and going. You go down this rabbit hole, and sometimes you push it too far.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I had it like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And because that's what I really like about Touch Designer is you really get to play. You're not thinking about, how long is this going to take to render out? And you do just get down this big rabbit hole. And I don't know, I suppose, I do. When I decide I'm going to stop, I've gotten better. And I'm like, save it now. And I just got to stop playing with it and be happy with it.
That's the thing. I've had that.
I suppose
you keep clicking next, and then you never get back. You're like, I'll get a better one the next one, and then you're like, oh man, that one was so good. Like,
I know.
Yeah, it's funny because I know Mickey was having that problem the other day. I remember.
Well, it depends what I'm working on. Different kind of ideas or software, you'll get that or you won't. Different kind of workflows. I suppose the workflow that's similar is when I'm doing geometric kind of stuff and I'm just playing with just numbers, equations essentially, and I'm just like inputting things that just are satisfying to see that they make this beautiful pattern with like mathematics. I get a buzz out of that, but I definitely remember working with fractals a lot, like 3D fractals, and that's exactly a rabbit hole you can go down like for ages. Oh my god, if I saved some of the stuff, I would have won awards on fractal like design. Seriously, it's all gone to the ether. I just tweaked too hard, and you get those moments, and it's hard to say. It's like, when do you stop? And it's like you stop when something is. It's like you can't even describe it because it's abstract. Because it's not necessarily something that can be well, why is this better than that? It's like, how can you sort of describe? Well, you just kind of feel it. You go, something resonates, something that it's like looking at a fire. And if there's a pattern in that fire, and in that moment you've created that pattern, if that's the pattern you want to you're happy just staring at, then that's the one I guess you kind of try and pull yourself away from and hit the save button.
Definitely. I suppose for me too, and what I've, personally, I'm really stoked on is I've been able to make a body of work, and I went to art school and for a little while, but this is probably the first time in my life I've been able to produce a solid body of work, and I try to have like a narrative running through. This latest project, I finished it off. There was 20 pieces. And I suppose I think about that when I'm creating my work as well. Is what I'm seeing in front of me fitting into this narrative of this project or this series or whatever you want to call it. That's how I approach those things.
I suppose absolutely that kind of narrows it down in a way where you have some kind of cohesive collection of something. This is something that I've kind of perhaps struggled with, or I've not gone far enough in. Or I've kind of perhaps given up on, or just maybe even got bored, or just wanted to try new different things. So this is a topic that I don't even know how to discuss this really, but it's something about, maybe it's just my own issue about things where I find what you're doing, and when you go into something like that and you play with these things and you just stick with one sort of a parameter, a set of rules that you're going to kind of stick with, you can then if you go deep in that, you can then find something really special. But if you dilly-dally and keep trying like new things, and I find myself, I'm often in that latter kind of form where I would do something, I'd be like, wow, that's great, I could make like a million things like this, but then I kind of go on, and it's like, it's this idea in my mind of like what I perceive as, I don't know, either I'm like, depends how you're doing it. For me, I'm saying I would be like farming something, like an idea, or I would be going that way. But so what I do is I don't do that. I just kind of move on to the next idea. But what I've realized is I've become this kind of, that's what like my name, master pupil. It's like a master of none, pupil of many. It's this kind of, that actually finessing something, that going down there. What I like about your work is that I've seen it develop, and I've seen you kind of just, you know, like you said, you're using Touch Designer predominantly. You're using a select set of software, and you're going down a very specific style. And then I guess what I'm trying to say is, when people see your work, you can see, oh, that's your piece. You know, you can kind of like, you've got a bit of a trademark. I'm struggling with that. Like, can you maybe, what are your feelings on what I just said on that whole kind of process?
Yeah, and you've kind of hit the nail on the head. That is exactly what I've done. The node setup that I'm working with on most of my work on Akek Nook has been the original node setup that I had right at the start. So and I suppose it's kind of like I'm giving myself a limitation and a constraint, and I'm forcing myself to really, really get in on, like, right, I'm using the same node setup, but how can I make everything different? And it really forces me to explore. So that network, I now know it inside out, and I know what everything does, you know, and there might be 30 different nodes, and then each one of those has maybe got like 4 or 5 different parameters. So I've got to the point where I know it inside out, which is really cool. And that, I suppose, that does give it a cohesive relationship to each one. And the fruits of that is like, I've produced a style that's mine.
I think it also strikes me, it's like, just by having a limited set of tools, by having a color palette, you know, if you were you know, it's like in this digital realm, we've got a lot of things at our disposal, you know, it's like anything you want. But then by kind of creating this limitation of like, sure, you can have anything you want, Touch Designer, you can put any input you like in there. But by sticking to this, like,
it's like an instrument.
It's an instrument. Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what I was going to say. It's like, it's a set of tools, a limited set of tools, because an artist essentially will have 1 or 2 brushes, or their favorite brush, or they'll have their favorite palette of colors, and it's like just creating again and again with those. I feel like you're pushed to find something a little bit more unique, and you create a style that looks a little bit more consistent. But because you are using those, there's also perhaps a little bit of this kind of like, that kind of muscle memory, that kind of almost like reflex, where you spend less time working out what you're going to do, but more time playing.
One of the things I found with NFTs is like, I'll think, right, I'll make something really simple. And then, you know, obviously I want to make that as good as I can possibly make that. And then it's like 3 weeks later, I'm still working on the texture for some. Like, I've got like 3 projects on the go at the moment, and it's like, it becomes completely not like backwards. I mean, it's not worth it. It's like I'm spending like months on something that I'm then going to try and sell for like 0.1 ETH or something. And it's like, there's more to be had from like creating something for the purpose. It's like, I'm not creating for the purpose. That's what I mean. I'm trying to create. I'm almost better off doing short films or something. It's like, so I really want to get into. I do love generative art, and I love coding, and I've done all that, and I love the way code turns into art. And I think that, especially now, it seems to be a lot of people are liking generative art in the NFT space, and it kind of ties into the
really
whole
hot thing at the
blockchain,
moment.
the whole feeling of it as well. So I'm definitely. I mean, yeah, that's why I like your work. I'm definitely keen to look into that and do some of that. And I think
so Touch Designer, just especially for people that can code. It's like I said, you can input anything you want. You can run it without code. And there's nodes where you can just dial everything in with code and do all sorts of crazy shit with it. But yeah, the real time rendering for me is key. I find it a lot more creative, as opposed to say the work that I do in Cinema 4D. But just kind of what you're saying is that they're making the work for a purpose. I think that's something I've been kind of successful just for myself and I think it comes from being a graphic designer, is getting down workflows. And like I said, I've been using the same node setup, so I can not pump and I don't pump the work out fast. It's just that I've got the time to do it. And with the Cinema 4D project, it's it's the same setup that I've had for the whole series. So I am working to a purpose, so I can generate these things quite quickly. And I think just that might be something if somebody's getting into NFTs to think about. I know collectors like to see maybe drop four creations at once. They like to see this body of work that's kind of similar. And I have collectors that run real high-end displays in their home, and they've got four screens. So if they see four of the themed drop, they'll come through and they'll buy the whole lot, sort of thing.
I saw that on your Twitter the other day. There was one of your collectors with the beautiful screens and like all your art.
Yeah, Beldruga.
Yeah, and it really kind of lends itself to your art, and like having that on the wall. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's something that I've kind of went away from a little bit. I run a projector. Like a projector is my daily TV. I got a fucking 3.5 meter screen. And when I got into this, I was, and I still am, and I want to. It's where I want to go, is doing installations in real life and doing things on big scale. And I suppose that's always been on my mind too. Is I want my work to be displayed on big screens. As much as I like phones and all that, I want people to be immersed in it. So I've always got that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something about, especially generative art and the kind of stuff you're doing with the mood, like to have the whole room, when you have colours come in, like the whole room lights up and the whole mood, you're creating a mood that extends beyond the screen. It's like the whole room is full of that.
Yeah.
Because that's something I'm really trying to get into as well, is we do a lot of big screen stuff, and it's like you have to design for the mediums. I mean, you have to design for the place it's going in, and you have to do massive sweeping colour changes to sort of create that drama, and it gets lost a lot of times because people don't think about exactly that, where it's being displayed and stuff. Yeah,
and I suppose for me too, when I did start, I was doing like big pieces. Mickey, that the first stuff I dropped on him,
Yeah,
that was a six minute piece at 4K.
Yeah,
and when I suddenly realised I went to go and upload it, I'm like, I've only got 40 meg to play with.
Yeah,
and I had to go through this. I had to go through this whole workflow of how am I going to get it on Hickey Nook? I've only got 40 meg.
Yeah,
and I've just composed the 6-minute soundscape. Everything's at 4K, and which was really cool, and it was a challenge. Like I ended up having to use an HTML player. And cut the loop down of the visuals, but at the same time it allowed me to have the 6 minutes of audio, and that experience was really cool, and it was kind of something new. And then I realized that I do need to think about the platform. I've only got 40 meg. Luckily we've got 100 meg now on Hickey Nook, which is an absolute godsend.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, man, we've got 100 meg, which
that's awesome. That helps a lot, actually, because you know what, I did limit even what I made or minted by the file size. I was like, okay, it has to be 10 seconds long. It's a loop. It just basically kind of like pigeonholed, I guess, a certain style, which I ended up kind of doing just to kind of fit that little, I guess, the framing of it. Even in the sense, I guess some of the stuff, I think, not to digress too much, but Will was mentioning how good your stuff looked like on the wall, like Beldruga's collection when they were up there on like big screens. It does lend itself to like being in a frame, and that's the kind of stuff I was working on initially, because I think what I did was still had this kind of physicality sense of where this stuff might be displayed, and I thought, well, if you're going to buy an NFT, maybe you're going to have it in one of those frames, like Infinite Objects makes those frames, and those like a physical display case, and what will work and what will look good in such a thing. It seemed like, I think initially it seemed like this is kind of, like you said, build it towards the platform, building it towards those things. But I think now as those limits are getting less restricted, we're getting 3D objects, HTML players are allowed, we can have interactive NFTs. The scope for what we can make and what's possible as an NFT is also going further and further. So where it's going, it's going to be less restrictive in a sense, because you can have those.
And I'm pretty excited about that too. Like, I've got a good friend, Beats, Wide Awake Beats. He's doing the Here and Now experience. He's a filmmaker, and he just dropped a short film that he did. And for filmmakers, I'd love to see, long play films coming online for NFTs. I know all of us are all sci-fi fans and movies, like imagine, being able to collect outtakes of Blade Runner and all those sorts of things. So the platforms are a little bit restrictive at the moment, but I am excited for when somebody can upload 2 gig or something like that.
I think the thing I'm really looking forward to the most is just decent displays that you can get on your wall. Like, still, I know they have them. They're really expensive. Do you know what I mean? And I've said this before, but I've got a TV that basically does it, but you need it to have a certain matte look. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you need it. It does. There's something about artwork that's printed that has a nicer look than a kind of glowing screen. Do you know what I mean? Like, it depends. Obviously, it depends on the environment and stuff. But like, I want a screen right up here in my office, and I'd love to have all my NFTs on there. And I think that is so untapped at the moment. And I think that ties in a lot to why people don't get it as well. It's like, because what can you do with an NFT? And obviously, we get it a bit more because we're on a computer all the time. But if you're not, you're like, well, what is it? Why do I want it? Like, this JPEGs especially just seem so like throwaway to people, I think. And when it's actually tied to a screen, and it makes so much more sense. It's like, because it's no longer just like a JPEG. It's an artwork, just, as you can relate to physical artwork that you have on your wall. And I think that's part of it, part of the confusion, and part of because there is like a lot of backlash against NFTs. And I see, it's like my Twitter's like split in half between people who love it and people who hate it. And I mean, I wanted to talk about this as like, I don't want to call anyone out in particular, but there's a guy on my Twitter at the moment, and like every day it's like, fucking NFTs, I don't get it. Anyone who's into NFTs, like, you're a mug. Like, why would you even do this stuff? And like, to me, like,
sorry about those comments, by the way.
Yeah. But it cuts deep, right? Because all the reasons that they have, so they might be like, oh, it's the environmental impact. I'm anti the environmental impact, and it's like, well, okay, we'll do clean NFTs then. Go on hen. Like, they haven't gone beyond the hatred. It's like, you don't really have a problem with it. All you've got is like hatred. And I mean, I don't want to like start offending people, but I find like a lot of it comes from illustrators and traditional artists who essentially are already selling and already doing well. And they're like, it seems to me very much that they don't want to have people encroaching on their business, essentially. Do you know what I mean? I mean, that's kind of jumping to conclusions a bit, but it's like, I just don't get this hate when there are alternatives. And I get the environmental impact, but then go to clean NFTs. And it's like, it cuts deep because it's almost like a hatred against these people who are now liberated, and people who do videos who, I mean, I was thinking about the only way you could make money if you did videos was to sell them to clients and sell your soul. Like, you're not going to be burning DVDs and going down the market with your little short film, like your little, well, not even a short, like your little 10-second animation. Like, there was no way for people to make money off that. And I just feel like, stop fucking hating on the whole thing, and if you do believe it could be better, then let's build that platform. Let's make it better. Let's make it cleaner. Let's make it all these things. Let's get rid of the people who are scamming everybody. Do you know what I mean? And it makes me angry. I just wanted to say that because it makes me angry that just generalised hatred of NFTs.
Yeah, no, fair call, eh?
Yeah.
I think it comes from a place of probably not understanding it, and I suppose it just happens when something new comes in, and I try to talk to people about it, and I'm talking a completely different language to them. And what you were talking about with having the displays, everybody thinks art needs to be on a canvas, and it's a little bit hard for them to think that just because it's digital, they think it's not art. But what art is on, it doesn't matter. We used to draw on cave walls with our fingers, and then we made a tool and made a paintbrush. Then we started painting on canvases. You know, it's just an evolution of where we put our art.
I think
but yeah, I really do hear what you're saying. It's hard sometimes to hear some of these comments.
I think if anything, we've gone full circle a little bit. Like you're just saying, talking about drawing art on stone, and it's like, in a sense, now we're putting it on the ledger, this kind of irrefutable giant wall of a blockchain. You know, that's like not only can we see the art there permanently, everyone can see it, but we can see where it's been, who made it, whose hands it traded in. There's a beautiful transparency that's now available with the type of art that we're seeing on the blockchain that wasn't there before, that was behind hidden hands, hidden doors in the real art world. I say the real art world. This is also the real art world, but you get what I mean. And perhaps some of the people are a little bit scared of that. And I think some of those ones that did grind it out in that past world, I think maybe might scared of that. There is a swathe of digital artists that just are kind of jumping on a bandwagon. But for me, they don't really need to be scared of those, because anyone who is will jump off it soon enough, and the true artists are going to carry on working. You know, they're going to find their thing, and this is it. It's not going away. You know, like people said in an interview, he said, okay, how can he explain NFTs? He was tired of giving the JPEG or, you know, owning the real Mona Lisa comparison. And he's like, look, you don't have to like NFTs, okay? It's like you don't have to like email, all right? But you fucking need to use it, right? It's like, it's there. It's part of our lives now. It's just fucking there. Like, an NFT will be somehow, if it's not in a digital art form. So the arguments do exist, and they are right against the environmental impact. This is something we're all need to work on. A lot of people are going to clean NFTs. Ethereum switched to 2.0. There's been a lot of talk about Solana NFTs, which is, you know, had mixed reactions so far, but there is definitely, it's like, it's not going away just by like people hating it, no matter how much people hate it. Like, solutions will be made. Okay, and people will just move to those cleaner, greener, more sustainable solutions. And that's what's going to happen. And we're going to just be there. And anyone who's just on that ride and understands it is going to benefit and profit from it. Not just financially, but just being it from making friends, learning about stuff, a whole new community of things to like learn about. I've made friends. I was such an antisocial fucker before this. I didn't have any social media, and now it's like I've made a Twitter, I've made an Instagram. I'm like talking to people again online. You know, it's like
I think that's an oxymoron. Like, you were social in real life, you weren't social digitally. But
I was the opposite. I was socially in real life. I just stayed away from social media. I really disliked it, and I think it was because I didn't find a purpose to it until more recently. I guess it's been the narrow scope of what is NFTs and digital artwork, and finding like-minded people that they're making stuff and they're creative. Like, I didn't just want to share it like, oh, I'm having a cup of tea, you know, at this place. Like, who cares? Like, whatever, you know.
That's my favourite. I'm the king of that.
I know. Anyway. I couldn't give any less fucks about that. So this was something that was exciting. I mean, how would you how's that affected your life in terms of just not just the client work or the beer bring or the money or any of that, but just the community side of things? How have you found?
Oh, it's huge, and yeah, you know, that whole argument of what is NFTs and what are they doing? What's it doing for everyone? For me, like, the connections I've made, if it all falls over tomorrow, my God, I've got a whole new community of people that I can create with and collab with. And, you know, for me personally, I think the more people get to be their creative self and feed their creative soul, I think that has a bigger impact on the world around them and the people around them. It's been really cool. I've made heaps of good friends now, online, and I suppose as the metaverse comes around, that sort of gets deeper as well. But it's probably more important to me than the financial side of it, if I'm honest. Pays the bills, but meeting other creatives and collabing on work is really high on my list.
Absolutely, man. I think, I think I'll speak for both me and Will. I think he feels the same as that. Like, definitely NFTs have changed their lives. But one of the things we've talked about for ages was doing this podcast. And it's like, when that came around, we kind of felt much more of a drive, and we had much more to talk about. There was this new thing all of a sudden that's drastically impacted the lives of artists, digital artists, anyone who is creative and would like to kind of see a way out and not just have to work for ad agencies and clients like that. And I think just doing the podcast was, I've made good friends from NFTs and Twitter, but just doing this, we're like going out there, we're meeting people, just even talking to people like yourself. It's actually really like, it's a good buzz, and it's really comforting, and it's fun to do, and it's something that's like just definitely a journey. Like you said, if it all kind of collapses tomorrow, it's like I've had fun, I've met people, and it's been a ride.
I was thinking about that as well. Like, I think there's no way now that, because the cat is basically out of the bag with these NFTs, and Ethereum price might drop 90% tomorrow, right? But there's still going to be, especially on Hen, like a community where I would pay a certain amount. I mean, not loads. I haven't got loads of money, but I will pay a certain amount for one of your artworks. And I think, as I'm saying, especially when I start getting frames and stuff, I'm going to want new stuff on there all the time, and I'm going to want to support people. And so, it may dip. Do you know what I mean? But it's still going to be there, and it's still going to be. You're still going to get that higher price for certain artists, and there's that desire, and it all links to like desire and things like. What I'm trying to say is, I think it's disconnected. Although it is directly at the moment connected to other cryptocurrencies and how well they're doing, it is disconnected in terms of it's a marketplace that will carry on after. I mean, unless they just ban it all. But I think basically it's still going to be there. Like,
the community is going to survive. I know. I feel that regardless of the dips and the prices and all of that. I think in the beginning, people will have come and gone, and the people who maybe wanted a quick cash grab and thought, read the headlines and thought, wow, I want a little bit of that pie. This guy.
There's a lot of those.
Of course. I mean, let's be honest. I think that literally pricked everyone's ears. We can't ignore that or say, oh, I didn't care about that. Like Beeple selling his artwork for 69 million interested me not in the slightest. It's like that would be bullshit, right? But that never set my expectations to think I could achieve anything like that. I'm not that guy. I didn't put that time in. I don't deserve that, right? So it's not about that, but it definitely makes you at least see that there is value in this, and that there are people willing to put value in something. And they're sure in the beginning that people are putting big bets on some of the big players, and they're buying maybe a chunk of history. Really, what they're doing. Where when you're investing in certain projects like CryptoPunks and the 5,000 Days of Beeple, you're buying a chunk of like that space and that time, and that's forever going to be like cherished and valuable. But for the rest of us and artists who are just making art, like the street artists, like the guys just there, you're making it week in, week out, like Zero, he's on Hen, and you're just making stuff, and it like pays the bills and it gets it done. And it's like, that's there as well. It's like, and that's what's beautiful about it. And I think that's wherever the other stuff dies down and no one gets those huge sales anymore or as much, that may be the case, but I agree with you, Will. I don't think this side is going away. I think things like Hen and things like that kind of stuff will just be there now. And now we've just got a way. We've got a method. Whereas previously you had to physicalize something. A digital artist you may have been, but unless you sold a print of it or gave them something physical, what could you do? So it's now you can't. The cat is out of the bag. It's there. It's very exciting. Exciting time.
That's it. It's like even if it just becomes like a digital tip jar type thing, where you can, just give money to people that you support and just appreciate their artwork. Like, I'm not saying that's what it's going to end up. Like, that's enough for me.
Even
almost,
if it's the minimum, but it won't be. It's like it's gone beyond that already.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask you, we've talked a lot about sort of just as creating artwork and that kind of side of things. But the other side of things that we're mentioning now in NFTs is like those big projects, the huge generative art drops and things like that. How much of that side of things interests you, or do you dip your toes in?
When's your 8,000 generative art project?
If I'm honest, it doesn't really interest me.
Okay.
I don't know why, but the only thing I am interested in at the moment is a generative art project is by the Russian artist duo 4040. They're pretty much, someone I really look up to. They do amazing work, and they're getting ready to drop. They're touch designer artists, and they're getting ready to drop a generative art project, and that's right up my alley. They're huge. They're really well known, but you got to dig a little bit to find where they're doing it and all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not something that's on my radar.
Are you you're not going to share the link with us? You're going to keep it low, keep it.
Yeah, no, you're going to have to find it. Follow me and you'll be able to find it.
But yeah, I mean, I did want to talk a little bit. I know you're saying you're not interested in it, but I think there are some projects coming up at the moment that are making it a bit more than just like 8,800 images. Like we both invested in this pack Lost Poets project, whereby, I mean, it was interesting because literally nobody knows what the fuck it is like, at all. It was like it was like a website, Lost Poets, right? Buy a page, 60,000 pages available, 0.3e. Like that was like it, and you're like, okay, like how, because there was this whole Pack Cube thing he did before, but I think Pack, what he's doing is he's creating an interest in them beyond the artwork. It's like a game, and it's like a very mysterious kind of collective. Which, because I was saying to Mickey, like I was chatting to Mickey about it, and we were like, oh, they've just come out, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do it. And I did that thing where you hover the mouse over the button and then you just go, oh, fuck it. So I just like clicked it and did it. And then I was like, oh, what have I done? Right? For like a split second. And then I was like, oh, bring it on. Like, this is really exciting. Like, because you've no idea. Like, now it's like the game's begun. It's like a lottery.
You bought a ticket. You bought a ticket.
Bought a ticket. And then he's like, right, in 48 hours or 2 days, whatever it was, I'm going to release like the mechanics. You're going to find out like what it is. And basically, the other day, we found out you basically have a choice. I've got 2 weeks now. The time is ticking. I've got 2 weeks to decide whether to turn it into a poet or keep it as a page. And they've started to like emerge on Twitter and stuff now. And it's basically an AI generative project where when you mint a poet, it creates this kind of fucked up, warped face based on sort of 5 origin poets and stuff.
Well, 1,000 origin poets, like 1,000
origin, 1,024. But like they're interesting artwork, but it's exciting. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, it's not so much about the art with that particular project. It's now like, right, what do I do? Do I turn it into a poet? Do I keep the pages? And I'm chatting to Mickey about it. And
well, it's going to be all of it. This is why it is also interesting. It's kind of like a generative art project, like the things you're doing with Touch Designer, but it's like done on this like multiple player scale where he's created these rules. Pages can be turned into poets, which can turn into images. These images can have different rarities, but these poets, in order to have words, the words they speak, right? If they've got words attached, you can name a poet. And so you then can actually affect the title of it. So put that on the blockchain.
You have to feed them pages, don't you?
And then you feed them pages. The more pages they have, the more words they can speak. And at the end of it, I think basically there's a thing that's going to happen after 1 year. Every remaining poet will be turned into ash or something like that, right? So you won't be able to like trade these for years. There's like a 1 year time limit to this game. Yeah. And then like what's happening, what's interesting with that is it's making people kind of create a choice, and it's like a little internet game, right? And it's a game about value, and it's a game about like what value will increase, who are going to get rewarded for it, And also there's going to be a physical book at the end, so it'll be art and another thing. I think the end goal is there's going to be some kind of booklet or NFT book with the origin poets and all of the words, the random words that are spewed out. So it's going to be an algorithm AI poetry book. Which is going to be really interesting just on its own, basically.
No, this is really cool. And I get it.
Yeah,
it's got a level. It's got different levels to it, and it's it's the word game is cool.
Absolutely, it's creating a gamification, an idea of it of something that's not quite been done, because we have kind of video games with in-app purchases and like buy these things and they might be useful.
It's tying into the community aspect of it as well. Like that's what's nice. There's Discords. You're going in there. People are going, "What the fuck's going on? What is it?" and chatting to each other, and it's amplifying that community which we're talking about that we love through this kind of ongoing year-long project.
Like we've kind of discussed a lot of this stuff. I was going to ask, like, do you want to say what's next for you? Are you doing any new kind of collection yet? Where can people see your work?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, I just finished a project. It was I dubbed it the Phase 3 project when I was doing these GIFs. And what I realized, like, audio is always a big part of me. And GIFs obviously don't have audio. So I've just finished that up now and getting ready to start a new project that's going to be back on MP4 and audio reactive with Touch Designer. I've got a bunch of Eurorack gear here, and I've got another synthesizer turning up soon, a Lyra 8, which is a Russian-made synthesizer.
I saw the photo of that on your Twitter. Yeah.
Nice. Dude, the thing's a beast. Like, and I love the way it's made. It's not a traditional instrument. All the reviews I've been sort of reading, it's like it plays itself. You just have to go with it. But yeah, that's where I'm at next. And I'm really looking forward to it. Like, it was good to do that project, but it was really good to finish it. So that's what I'm gearing up to do next. It'll be in Touch Designer. I've got the project on OpenSea, which is my Lost Souls. I'll probably keep adding to that, but it's just time, and I want to concentrate on my sort of Hectic Nook stuff and the Touch Designer work. Long term, I would like to, and I've been speaking to a few other Touch Designer artists. I would like to have a model of letting my collectors run my Touch Designer files natively, so it would involve them having their own sort of rig and license, but allowing them to have things like Kinect cameras. It would almost be like a personal installation in their house, or maybe a gallery that buys the NFT. And I think if the Touch Designer artists, if we sort of do a bit of a collective and we get it sorted out, then we can put our files up as NFTs, and once the collector has the hardware and it's sort of streamlined for them, then they can just collect the files. So I'm working on that with a few people, and I got to reach out to a couple of people in the Touch Designer community to try and streamline it, because you wouldn't be able to offer support, and you want to make sure it's easy to work and it works every time.
I mean, that sounds really interesting too. It's like, I'd love to see like a frame with integrated Connect, and because I love the idea of bringing this digital art into your house. Like, I'm quite obsessed with it. Like, because I don't like a lot of, well, it's not that I don't like a lot of the art, but obviously digital art is my thing. And so I'd love to have, especially like a frame you walk past and it was interactive. And I mean, that's kind of stuff I'd love to make as well. So yeah, that's really interesting as NFTs, because that stuff only really exists at the moment in galleries and in big spaces where they pay, hundreds of thousands for some artists to do an installation for them. But if you could bring that a bit more to the people and in the home, I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I reckon, eh? And I'm kind of the same as you. Like, I love my physical pieces, and I've got some really amazing NFTs in my collection, and I don't get to see them. I want them in my living space. I want them in my studio.
Yeah.
I've just moved to where I am now. There's nothing on my walls,
Well, I guess that's the future, isn't it? That's the total recall where you can just have a forest scene on your wall in your lounge and stuff.
Well, that's it.
It's essentially trying to
it's going to be the augmented reality glasses that will do that, won't they? So once we're all wearing Apple specs or whatever they're going to be called, these kind of things, you're going to just have digital frames. That's why I think the physical aspect of it, to be honest, I think it's just an interim step. I don't know. I think people are always going to want the physical because it's like, no, I like the vinyl. I want the actual thing. I want to touch it. I want to hold it. But I feel like there's a massive step that's going to be just overlooked with those frames. I think, where we're just going to go. We're going to go straight to.
I know. I want to see. I want people to come round and see the things that I have put in my space. Though, do you know what I mean? It's not just that you can see them yourself. Like, you want it to exist in your physical space, I think. I know what you're saying, but they'd have to be pretty fucking good to want to put those glasses on all the time. And I think I've actually regressed due to using VR a lot and realising you only want to be in it for 10 minutes and stuff. I think you're right, but I think they're going to have to get so good where it's so comfortable to just have them on regardless of whether you're looking at anything.
Yeah, I think
you'll find it would be a culture shift, like, I think we're all roughly around from the same generation and all that, but I think as, the younger kids and that grow up and they get used to wearing AR glasses or whatever,
yeah,
it'll shift, and they will associate whatever they're seeing in the AR as real.
Yeah.
And whereas us we can remember what it was like to see physical stuffs on walls.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where I'm at. Like I very much am of, I learned how to mix on turntables and mix vinyl. I still use CDJs and digital mixers, but God, I love mixing vinyl and the whole mechanics of it. And I think it's I sort of have the same thing towards digital art.
I mean, I don't know if I talked about this before. I basically sold my decks at university for like a quarter, like an eighth of weed, and basically smoked my decks. And now I've like regretted it. And they were like perfect, like Technics Mark IIIs, whatever they were, black, perfect, no scratch. And then, oh man, someone took advantage. But anyway.
What are you mixing, man? What type of tunes?
So, I mean, I love hip-hop. I always used to, back at university, I used to live with 3 people who liked house music, and house music is not my thing, but when you're exposed to it 24/7, like 4 people, and you want to get in on the back-to-back mixes, I do like house music. So, in terms of mixing, but then it was also like drum and bass. I was massively into Aphex Twin, Square Pusher.
Yeah.
Weird electronic stuff, but yeah, I mean, I have different phases of my life. Do you know what I mean? I loved Bad Company and all the drum and bass, the Book of the Bad and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, hip hop is obviously harder to mix, but I bought the whole Serato setup and everything, and then realised my decks were too shit to use it. It's just tragic.
Yeah, bugger.
Tragic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to do little mashup mixes of hip hop and stuff. But I mean, I basically got them also for sampling. I really wanted to learn how to make hip hop beats, and I did a bit with all the things that I get into. I do it a bit, and then I make one tune, and then I go, right, that's it. I've done it. What's next?
Sweet, man. Thank you for coming on to the show and talking to us. It's been a pleasure. It's really good finally chatting to you. Like, we met at the start of my NFT journey, really, and my start of my Twitter, coming onto crawling out of the rock and saying hi to people online, being terrified at first, but it's okay. I realised people are actually really friendly, and I'm glad that you've come on and that we've made friends, and it's great to catch up with you, bro. Great to see you.
Where can people find you as well?
Yeah, so I'm on Hikik I'm on at 0alpha_NZ on Twitter, and you can find my links there to my Hikik Nook accounts and also my OpenSea account. I also do a podcast with Rose Jackson, who's an amazing artist from Australia. She works in felting and all sorts of cool stuff. And that's called The Other Side, and we do that every fortnight on the Vertical Crypto Art Discord channel. We record it live and then we put it up on we put it up on YouTube. That sort of spotlights artists from around our area, Oceania, Australia, New Zealand, Asia, and we're just getting into that. So we've got 2 episodes up so far. But yeah, that's me.
Cool, man. All right, exciting, man. Well, thanks again very much. And yeah, guys, check out Zero Alpha stuff. And your host, this has been, so if you want to check out mine and Will's stuff, I'm at master__pupil on Twitter.
Don't
Will?
check me out, I'm shit. No, I'm shit. give me a couple of months. It's all right. People know who I am. What are you talking about?
People know. Anyway, cool, man. Well, thanks again, everyone, for listening. If you've made it this far, you're legends. And until next time, OG Creatives Podcast. Thank you for listening.